Welcome back to the Bill and Doug Show. Ohio State victors over the Minnesota Golden Gophers, 42-3. I thought they had 7. They had 3. 42-3 on Saturday night. Doug Lesemrises and Bill Landis with your post-game show. Landis, we talked about it this week. The idea that Ryan Day is maybe urban on the streets, Tressel in the sheets. This is Philly Billy on the streets, French vanilla in the sheets, because you're on the street and I'm in a hotel room and we're talking about the Buckeyes.
Quite literally on the street. I'm sitting out front of my father's home in Northeast Philadelphia because this was the space that was available to me to try to do the podcast. So hopefully not too much outside noise. It's fairly late in the evening, so and it's not a busy street. But yeah, I'm sitting on the stoop, as they say.
Yeah, so we're trying to bring you guys interesting talk about. I think an interesting game. Did it feel like there's a lot to talk about here? Was Ohio State trolling everybody tonight? Like it's like Ohio State did. This is the undefeated #1 team in the country. And it felt like anything that you may have questioned along the way, and we've certainly discussed things here with our Substack audience, with our YouTube audience, and our podcast audience. Anything you questioned, it was a little bit of like, you like this? Oh, you got special teams questions, do you? You got your special teams questions? How about a throwback to Lorenzo Styles? Hey, Mr. Fullback, you want to come in my house and ask me fullback questions? Ryan Day says to you, we're turning CJ Donaldson into a fullback and we're handing him the ball. Oh, people wonder if we can take deep shots. How's this? How's about a moon ball from Julian Sayin? Was Ryan Day trolling everybody tonight, Bill?
Yeah, you're welcome for the game plan. Right. Like it was. Carnell Tate didn't touch the ball enough against Minnesota. He touched it plenty, or against Washington. He touched it plenty against Minnesota. Yeah. They do these things, right? This is not the first time this has happened. I think sometimes it can be rare to see it against a Big Ten opponent, but sometimes Ohio State goes out there kind of, I think, having a pretty strong understanding of what it's going to be able to do to a team. And this was one of those games. So they started checking some boxes. And I also think this was brought up. I can't remember if we talked about it or someone on Substack might have mentioned it. I think we talked about it. The fact that this was their last home game before Penn State. And on the road against Illinois, and whatever you think of Wisconsin, like you just don't want to get like into a silly game in Madison. You're probably not going to throw some new stuff out there as a means of breaking tendency. And you want to get some of that out there before you play Penn State. So this was kind of their last opportunity to do that before that game on November 1st. Now that we thought that before Penn State lost to UCLA, but and they did too. So I think that was part of it here. But yes, a lot of the talking points coming off of was a very good win against Washington. It wasn't like they were hypercritical talking points, but they were addressed in this game. They were definitely addressed in this game. Yeah.
There's some little things I think that we can get into. We can talk about Jaden Fielding. We can talk about the QB sneak and the presidential package that didn't go so well. But I want to go big picture here because I think there's two things that I want to discuss overall. One is that on a day when college football goes crazy, right? This is one of those college football days where the conclusion is like everybody stinks. Oh. Penn State stinks now, and Texas stinks. And it turns out Florida State beat Alabama, but now Florida State stinks. And Alabama found a way to beat Vanderbilt, but maybe that just means that Vanderbilt stinks, and maybe Alabama still stinks as well. It's one of those things, right? In the land of the blind, the what is it? The guy with his eyes closed is a king. I don't know what it is. In the shoeless, in the land of the shoeless, the guy. It's that it's like one of those things. We do this, and I think we do it for a reason, and we do it understandably, but it's like, well, Ohio State could be a little bit better at this, and Ohio State could be a little bit better at that, and Ohio State could be a little bit better at this, but at least they didn't lose to UCLA, and at least they didn't go lose to Florida, right? I mean, this is programs that are fire coaches, programs that want to fire coaches who are beating two teams that were in the top 3 in the preseason in Texas and Penn State. And it is a reminder that this sport is hard. This sport takes a while to find your footing. And just when you think you have a guaranteed win, you don't. And it happens all the time. But I think surviving and not just surviving. Ohio State dominated on Saturday night, but especially to do that in a weekend when so much else blew up is a reminder of how good this team is right now.
I feel like on some level, given the way the day went, that nobody would have been happy with sort of like an exhale game, just like a game you get through, even if it's a little weird. At least you ended up on the winning side, kind of thing. But then Ohio State avoided that entirely and just kind of had their way with, what a middle of the pack Big Ten team. I'm not saying like it's overly impressive to beat Minnesota the way it did, but to rise above the shenanigans of college football, which Ohio State does tend to do, I think, quite often, in this fashion was pretty impressive. They just sort of left no doubt, like, right? Like, even when Minnesota drives down and gets that field goal, you're like, okay, that's a scripted drive, but like, is this something? And like, no, the answer was no, it wasn't. And it was apparent that the answer was no, at least on the defensive side, almost immediately. And it took 2 drives for the offense to show you that the answer to that question was no. But just emphatic like greatness from Ohio State on a day when that felt elusive to a lot of other very good teams.
Yeah. I'm not trying to sell Substack subscriptions right now, but Jason in the chat is asking suggestion for the next bye week. Compare 2015 Ohio State to 2025 Ohio State. This team feels like they just have a different mentality. We did that on one of our Substack only shows for 2 hours 3 weeks ago, and it is a great comparison. But I think this, like, because that 2015 team kind of played with its food, but like not in a purposeful way. And I think almost anything, Bill, that this Ohio State team, if you think they haven't done this or they haven't done that along the way, there's almost been a purpose to it. And then you saw it tonight, and are like, what happens when they let it go? And Ryan Day, I'm sure a lot of you guys saw it, did say after the game on the TV interview on the field, we wanted to let Julian let it go. You and I, Bill, talked about that during the week. Again, because of what you said, they're not going to have another home game before Penn State. Are you going to go tell him to let it go in Camp Randall? Like, I think you needed to see Julian Sayin let it rip a little bit, and then he did. But here's my other point, and there's a crazy stat that I want to throw out here. That first drive, the way Ohio State played defensively, right? They're just they forced Minnesota to play almost perfect football, and Drake Lindsey did. Drake Lindsey completed his first 7 passes. They march right down the field. They have a 25-yard pass to a tight end in the middle of the zone. That is one of those plays that it makes the few hairs left on PJ Fleck's head stand on end, right? This is the best Minnesota can be. They are perfect. And then they get down there and they maybe try to hit a throw on a throwback, and like it's not there, they throw it out of bounds. A third down throw that maybe could have been caught. It's not. The moment they're not perfect, they're held to a field goal instead of a touchdown. And that Ohio State defense is saying, we're going to dare you to be perfect. And we're going to make you be perfect. And the moment you're not perfect, you're dead. And when you are perfect, you get 3. And then a lot of other defenses, Bill, have tried to do that to Ohio State. They don't want to get beat deep. So they say to Ohio State, okay, we don't want to get beat deep. We want to make you be perfect. And then Ohio State is perfect. And they are happy to march down the field that way. And it is the perfection challenge that Ohio State's defense will do it to an opponent, and inevitably that opponent's going to fail. Opposing defenses not wanting to give up big plays will do it to Ohio State, and Ohio State will succeed, will achieve repeated perfection. And then after a while, I think you're like, well, they're just going to march down the field anyway. We better try something. And now here comes the Carnell Tate moonball, right? So we saw this, like, you see Minnesota kind of winding up the situations. That second, I don't want to get into that one yet. The second one is just like, it felt like a warm blanket. But right, Bill, it's like that thing. If you want to make somebody be perfect and they're not, you win. If someone else makes you be perfect and you are, they eventually give up. And I thought that showed out tonight on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I think Ohio State too is good. And sometimes it takes a little while, but Ohio State more often than not seems to figure it out, right? Like in battling that sort of like be perfect game plan from whichever defense they might be facing, there are times where like it takes a drive or even a half for them to figure it out, but they do. And like it even felt like that a little bit against Washington last week, right? Like they were kind of feeding into it a little bit, and Ohio State does do that sometimes. But then the second half, they were just like, we're going to throw it and we're going to beat you. And I'll give Ohio State credit today. Like I don't know that its offense really ever felt like it was kind of on the back foot in this game. I know they didn't finish that first drive the way they wanted to, but otherwise, was pretty good. I guess the other Keenholt's first short yardage play is the other time where it got kind of wonky, but it's not, part of it is like, of course, Ohio State is better at this than Minnesota. They have much better players across the board, but I also think that there's something there, like coaching staff wise and player acumen wise, to figure out whatever that might be on the fly. Like, I don't know that this was the greatest test of that for Ohio State's offense, but we've seen other games where that was the case already this year, where they have kind of cracked whatever they need to crack to score whatever they need to score to win the game. And that's a nice thing to have the fall back on. I do think you wrote about it last week. I do think that's a sign of maturity. This was more, I don't know, there was some maturity in this game, I guess, but this was more just like, we are significantly better than you, and we know it, and we're going to show it to you.
Yeah, which is, and I think part of it is like knowing like when you can do that, right? When is it time to let it rip, right? When is it appropriate? And I think they have a very good handle. And I think the weird thing of it is I do think know when to do what. And sometimes you and I, or educated, dedicated Ohio State fans, are like, isn't it time now? And it's like, nope, not yet. It's not time now. And that can be very frustrating. There's two touchdowns that I want to talk about in particular, because I want to stay on the offensive side of the ball before we get to the defense. So they have a 3rd and 1 that inside their own 20, where they do go to a fullback look, and they put CJ Donaldson at fullback in front of Bo Jackson, I believe. And you were asking fullback questions this week, and one of the things that you and I had talked about and that you were writing about, it's like the idea of when they put Nate Roberts in as a fullback, he's a freshman tight end, and Ryan Day says, well, you have to be versatile, you have to be an option here. It's like, well, Nate Roberts can go out for a pass there besides just block, but you're not going to hand him the ball as the first guy through as a fullback. So actually he doesn't have that versatility. So then what do? They line up CJ Donaldson, their hammer running back, as the fullback and hand him the ball, and they convert it on a CJ Donaldson second effort. Do you think Ryan Day was trolling you in particular with that play call?
Maybe. So it wasn't Bo Jackson. It was Carnell Tate.
Behind CJ.
And they did that.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And they did that. They did that twice. And like, I noted it immediately, and I was like, oh, I wonder what's going to come of that. And I think maybe the game just got to the point where Ohio State kind of stuck that in its back pocket and didn't show us what that was going to become. And otherwise, like, that was everything about that look was similar to the look that they got in last week against Washington, when Donaldson did punch it in, and when Donaldson caught the pass late out of the backfield. He's like in like a on the hand on the ground, like offset position. But last week against Washington, there was no one behind him. This week it was Carnell Tate behind him. So was it trolling? Maybe. And I would give Ryan Day all the credit in the world if it was trolling. I appreciate that.
And Brian Hartline. And I don't mean to say only Ryan Day.
And
Brian Hartline's calling plays right through.
And Brian Hartline. Yeah. They don't. The thing I read about the fullbacks this week, like they don't have that guy on the roster. So actually, unless they want to like put Caden Curry there, but they're not going to do that because Caden Curry is too valuable on defense.
Yeah.
So the only way they can really get to that, I think, is by using CJ Donaldson in those roles. He leaves something to be desired with his pad levels still, even when he was running in short yardage today. So I'm hesitant to say they found something there, I guess. It worked against Minnesota. It worked against Minnesota. I actually thought the things in short yardage that looked the best today were when they just let Bo Jackson do it. And he ran through an arm tackle, and then they had that drive after the punt return where they got down to the 20, and it was 3 plays all to Bo Jackson, including a 4-yard run and a 5-yard run, kind of like in the mess down in the short red zone where he just ran through people and scored a touchdown. So funny if it was trolling. I'm not entirely sure that's the answer. I think the answer might be more just like Bo Jackson is RB1. Bo Jackson started. Bo Jackson got the bulk of the carries, and Bo Jackson also looked the best in short yardage in this game. So he's just their best running back. So they should use him in every and all situations.
Well, that's one of those. It's like you can talk about breakaway speed with Bo Jackson, and it feels like, okay, like if Peoples is sort of like the guy to give Jackson a break, Donaldson is more the short yardage guy, but really like Jackson is the best short yardage guy. But I called it an explosion sandwich on 3 pieces of fullback bread, that they went from that little handoff to CJ Donaldson that converts the 3rd and 1. The next play is the moonshot deep ball to Carnell Tate for 48 yards. The next play after that is the little throw in the middle of the field to Jeremiah Smith, who just like explodes like he shot out of a cannon for 31 yards. And then they hand it to CJ Donaldson twice in a row, and he runs behind Nate Roberts as the fullback. And so you go fullback involved, big play, your 2 best receivers, fullback involved, then you get a touchdown. And that is like that is always lurking, right? That 48-yard Carnell Tate shot. I'm not saying it's always there, but if defenses are taking it away, they'll do other things. But like the moment it's there, they're ready to take it. And we've seen the times this year when they've called those plays and Julian Sayin maybe hasn't taken it, maybe a few times early when he should have. But it's not that they don't want to do it. It's that they're waiting for the right time. And like, hey, we converted a 3rd and 1 short yardage. That's awesome. That's kind of a thing we need to be good at. Here comes a deep ball right on his hands. Like, it's just the 2 ends of the spectrum right on top of each other. And it's quite a reminder for a defense, man.
I don't think there are many teams that could put that particular sequence of plays together, right? Like how many, and we can, I think we'll continue to analyze the short yardage stuff and whatever the fullback package is and whether or not those are the best things for Ohio State to do given its personnel. But by and large, it was effective in this game. So like to play big, to run like insert run plays and then drop a bomb on you for 48 yards and then throw the ball to the freakiest receiver in college football. He slips 2 tackles and takes it down inside the 5. It's like, what are you supposed to do? And it did feel like Minnesota came into the game saying like, all right, I guess we'll try to stop the run and see what happens. And then they kind of did for the most part. And Ohio State just threw it all over them because it's hard to take everything away from this team when they decide to utilize its outside skill the way that it did in this game, including Max Clare, who had 5 catches.
Right. And so then the second one I want to talk about is under center, 12 personnel, play action deep shot, which is just what makes the world go round, except they added some Jeremiah Smith motion to it. That was like they did a good job. NBC showed the replay. It was like a conga line of 4 defenders. It was like at 4 different levels, like bing, bang, boom, boom, all running with Jeremiah Smith. And they may as well have just stopped it and done like the word bubbles above their head where they were like, oh, F, as soon as Jeremiah Smith on the motion was not getting the ball. And there's not even a deep safety. There's like 10 guys by the there's one guy one-on-one with Carnell Tate on the other side of the field. He was beaten by 9 yards. I don't know that I've seen a guy like, you don't see a guy get that beat that deep, but it's not that guy's fault. He's just a man. He's doing the best that he can. But that setup, right? You add, right? Play action, 12 personnel, under center, deep shot. Come on. What's better than that unless you add Jeremiah Smith motion to it to draw the entire defense?
Yeah, sprinkle a second run fake on top of it to the best player in the sport is not a bad thing to do. I don't know that I've seen that many people bite that dramatically and wrongly on a play action fake before. And also credit to Carnell Tate. He ran a heck of a route on that play too. Like, you're right. That guy the defender never really stood a chance because I think even if he covered Carnell Tate well, the right throw, Carnell Tate still catches it, right? But Carnell kind of like spun him around and then just waited for that thing to beautifully drop into his hands as he walks into the end zone while the rest of the Minnesota defense was preoccupied with Jeremiah Smith. Again, it's one of those things you put in the box of like, what are you supposed to do? I do think Ohio State has tried to get into those things. Like, we've had this conversation where like, are they explosive? Are they trying to be explosive? I would say they have tried to be, including a lot of plays that don't look exactly like that one, but play action shots to the 2 of the best 5 receivers in college football that defenses haven't given them the opportunity to hit on. But I would also say that with the exception of perhaps 1 or 2 plays this year, I feel like they hit on it every time it's there. And that's kind of all you can ask, right? Like I I don't want Julian Sayin necessarily like forcing the ball into double and triple coverage just because Ohio State happened to call a shot on that particular play, and he's done a really good job of avoiding that. But whether it's the Grambling and Ohio are one thing, but like Texas and Washington didn't really give Ohio State opportunities to throw those passes.
Right.
Minnesota did, and Ohio State smoked them with them, right? So as long as they do that, as long as they are connecting on them when they're there to be connected on, then I feel pretty great about where the passing offense is, whether like it's explosive or not game to game.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't know. I don't think that you and I were having conversations of like, this is a problem. It's just like, are they looking for it enough? Right. And it's like they are. And then again, Julian Sayin's 9 of 9 on passes of 20 yards or more down the field coming into this game. He hits the one to Tate. He hits the second one to Tate. I guess he has his first incompletion because they tried that sideline shot to Jeremiah Smith that actually I thought was a pretty well thrown ball. Jeremiah Smith ran a pretty good route, and John Nestor, who's a pretty good corner, just ran with it and made a play on the ball. But I didn't think Ohio State really did anything wrong there. But I guess it's Julian Sayin's first and maybe only deep ball incompletion of the year, and the rest killer.
I think it's his own. Yeah. So then he'd be like,
so he's like 11 for 12
I
on
think he's
20
like
yards down the field.
There's a one,
Ryan Day's,
the 31.
Ryan Day says,
yeah. Go ahead.
No, Ryan Day says they want to be 50% on those. And like you go through college football and quarterbacks all over the place on throws of 20 yards or more, like 30%. And he's 11 for 12.
Yeah. And there was like some conversation this week about saying being afraid to let it rip when it's time to let it rip. And which I just like thought was wrong. And then I think he backed that up today.
So I don't know. There were people, we had a lovely, and again, for those of you watching on YouTube and on podcast, we have a Substack chat on our Substack subscription, Bill and Doug, osu.substack.com, that you can certainly join us on. And we had that chat going during the game. We have like thousands and thousands of comments on there. And Bill, I will say, I'm not up on the memes. I'm not up on the GIFs. I don't really know what the kids are doing out there, but people were saying that there was that conversation about Julian Sayin and the deep ball and perhaps questions. I don't know if it raised to the level of criticisms about it, and I missed it. I don't know what I have no idea what people are talking about. What are they talking about? Who's having that conversation?
It was mainly one place that I saw it. It was College Football Nerds. It's a YouTube show. And they were talking about like air yards and how Julian Sayin doesn't throw the ball X amount of air yards down the field. I can't remember exactly what it was. And then they were like going back and forth with people and like, well, we're charting from the line of scrimmage, not from where the quarterback actually throws the ball. Like it was like a totally it's just a conversation that got like way out of control that seemed off base from the jump. I actually think a lot of like whatever mainstream college football national media has been pretty in on the Julian Sayin experience so far. But there was a little bit of does this guy throw the ball down the field enough, or is he timid conversation this week? And I think he showed us tonight that he's not timid.
I mean, the Oregon offense for 3 seasons has operated on throws 3 yards past the line of scrimmage. Like, I don't know what.
Right.
He's not Dylan Gabriel. Julian Sayin's not Dylan Gabriel. Nobody thinks that, right?
No, I don't think so. They just look at passing charts, I think. Like I don't know. Like you can look at a passing chart for Julian Sayin and not watch a second of the game, and I think perhaps reasonably come to the conclusion that he doesn't throw the ball down the field enough. But I think if you watch him, you'd understand why, and you'd understand that when the opportunities are there, he does more often than not take them. And he's also, by the way, getting better by the week, like with the off script stuff, right? Like with having the scramble and find guys on the sideline. Like that throw, was it to Tate when Tate made that incredible catch on the sideline when he went full extension? Like Julian Sayin, it's hard to compare all Ohio State quarterbacks, right? Like holistically, but I think you can like pick out certain things you might say like this guy is the best at this thing. Julian Sayin rolling to his left, squaring his shoulders, and ripping a pass with pace on target. He might be the best at that I've seen from Ohio State quarterbacks.
Hands and toes catch from Tate. That was awesome. He had another one to Claire, too, on the sideline on like a roll. And you can see it's like there's so much that's in rhythm in the passing game when it's on like this, and it was on all night. And then the few times it gets out of rhythm, he's solving problems now. which again is like you don't have to solve a problem by like running and putting your shoulder into somebody. But 23 of 27 for 326 and 3 touchdowns. That is mostly timing, play call, guys getting open, accuracy, processing. But there's a little bit of ingenuity in there and then by the way, he had that one in the middle of the field where he had a guy right in his face and he got planted and he stood in, and actually like when he released it, I was like, oh man, is like he didn't quite get everything on it because there was someone plugging him in the dirt. But he completed it. I think he knew he had a little bit of space to work with. There was really no underneath there coverage there or anything, but again, like Ryan Day is going to go home and rewatch that thing 7 times of Julian Sayin standing in and taking a hit and making a throw down the field.
Yeah, I bet that's Ryan Day's favorite play from this game. And I thought too, even watching it at full speed live, first blush, I thought you could see the moment where Sayin realized he was going to get hit and hung in there anyway. He could have turtled or tried to run away and throw the ball out of bounds. But I think he saw Max Clare open, saw the defender, brought his eyes back up, and just made a throw knowing he was going to get planted. Really, really tough throw. At a time in the game where it didn't necessarily call for it, but you just want that to be second nature, I think, in your quarterback too. So it was a clean shot. He fell right on his butt. He kind of popped right back up. They ran the ball on the next play, and then he was good to go. But yeah, if you want the scrambles he had last week and some of the hits he took there, the hit he took on the sideline in this game when he popped back up, and then getting hit square in the chest and delivering that ball 29 yards down the field, those are all things I think Ryan Day would put into his toughness category.
Yeah. And I did think one of the things I thought maybe coming out of his hand, I expected it to not have as much on it as it did because he had the guy on top of him. And then again, I don't think he had max velocity on that throw, but he had enough. And I think maybe other guys in that spot, other quarterbacks, maybe your release isn't quite as quick, right? So you don't have to be 6'5" to stand in there and take that hit. You get it out fast. You diagnose it. You get it out fast. You're willing to take it, and you can see what happens there. Great game by Julian Sayin. And again, this is what Carnell Tate did tonight is planting seeds all over the place. And we don't want every conversation we have to be, is Carnell Tate the second best receiver in the Big Ten? But maybe that should be the conversation we have, because just what he does tonight, and Ryan Day is talking about he's blocked all year, and we all know that. And he does a lot of things when he doesn't have the ball in his hands. And then between the deep ball, he doesn't drop stuff. He's if you give him a shot, he takes advantage of it. But the deep balls and then the hands and toes catch falling out of bounds on the sidelines, he's such a complete receiver at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of is he a second best receiver in the country conversation.
Yeah,
Big Ten
I think the conversation, if we want to try to make it a Denzel Boston or a Nick Marsh or a Jakari Lemon, or no offense to that USC guy, I can't remember his name. I get it. But I think it's over for now until further notice. I mean, it's not a conversation anymore. You're right. We're going national to have that conversation.
Right. And it's a credit to Carnell, who I've said before, I thought was very good last year, but it's just, he's taken incredible leaps this year with the ball, without the ball, after the catch. I think his route running is more precise this year. He is just really blossomed into a pretty special receiver. And I'm interested to see moving forward, because clearly Minnesota was well, we'll throw guys at Jeremiah Smith and hope that Carnell Tate doesn't kill us. And he did, and he's done that often in his career the last year and a half. I'm wondering if there's anything moving forward where teams start to give him a little more respect, and then you see Jeremiah start to get some of these opportunities one-on-one more down the field too. I think Ohio State's done a really good job of making sure that Jeremiah Smith still gets the ball, given all the attention that he's receiving. But there's clearly a difficulty, I think, with trying to get him the ball down the field a little bit. But maybe the continued emergence of Carnell Tate is something that could, and Max Clare in the middle of the field, is something that could open up some more of those opportunities for Jeremiah.
But also, and it's one of those, I'm also maybe at the end of my, does Brandon Ennis need to be involved in the offense conversation? I think 2.5's enough. When the two are Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. And tonight, Carnell Tate had 10 targets, 9 catches for 183. Jeremiah Smith had 9 targets, 7 catches for 67. And then here comes Max Clare. 6 targets, 5 catches for 63. So you have to feed those two guys. They are doing it. We have seen it not be the case in the past, where it's not necessarily the case that Ohio State's best players are the guys getting the ball the most often. That is has been the case every game, even when it's like, oh, Carnell Tate didn't. Well, Jeremiah Smith did, right? They have not had a game where they've like had both those guys be taken away. So I just don't know that I care about anything else because it doesn't matter. Because Tate and Smith are enough to counterbalance each other and tie defenses in knots. And then if you want an outlet, if you want a little bit of a middle of the field threat, if you want, okay, this isn't there, where do I come down to the second level? And now if Max Clare can be that, that's 2.5. That's enough. I'm just not going to have any more conversations about like getting the ball to other people because the problem conversation is Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate aren't getting the ball enough. And that is not where this offense is. So everything else is extraneous.
Yeah, I'm more or less with you. I guess the only thing I would say in addition to that is maybe there was one or two plays today where it felt like they were drawing it up so that Brandon Ennis could get the ball. Like I don't think Ohio State needs to do that anymore. If he's out there and the ball finds its way to him via the progression, great. But anything that is like we need to draw something up to get the ball into this guy's hands that is not for Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate is just like a wasted down at this point. So I guess we'll monitor to see if Ohio State tries to work in more of those Ennis touches or not.
And run game, as you mentioned, Bo Jackson 13 for 63 and a touchdown. James Peoples 7 for 59. That included a long of 33. And then CJ Donaldson was a short yardage back tonight. 3 carries for 3 yards. And they were all 3, and they were the fullback slices of bread. That was it. He did not get the ball otherwise. I think there is, right? There is no point in having Bo Jackson have 20 carries in a game like this. 13's enough. But if that is officially where we are, Bo Jackson's the guy. Peoples gives him a breather. CJ Donaldson is short yardage until Bo Jackson takes over the short yardage too.
Yeah, I mean, this is as sort of like clearly defined as it's felt since Bo Jackson took over as RB1. Like I felt that way too. It was like, oh, I guess CJ Donaldson is just situational now. I think they like Peoples. Like I think they see real upside with him, and it's not clicked yet. But I do believe they're going to keep giving him opportunities for it to maybe click. And he ran really hard at the end of the game. Showed some good bursts against a rundown defense. So maybe that's it. But he's not to the point where he's going to be like even with carries with Bo Jackson. But they need somebody, I think, to definitively take that number 2 running back role. And it felt like they were giving Peoples the chance to do that. And I thought he was okay tonight. And then he used Donaldson in short yardage. Saw Isaiah West a little bit in the third quarter, I think. I like him. Actually, he looks pretty good, I think. But I don't know that he's actually going to be part of the conversation this year. So it's Jackson all the way. And they'll have to be smart about what they do with him. Because he had 13 carries, but he had 2 catches, so 15 touches total or something like that.
1 catch, yeah. So 14
catch.
touches,
Okay, so
14 for 74.
Touches. Yeah, I think 14, 15 touches in a game like this makes sense, so that you have him available for 25 touches against Penn State and Michigan, right? So, and I think that is how they'll continue to operate this, with the hopes that maybe James Peoples figures it out a little bit.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. You want to go defense a little bit?
Yeah.
All right. Before we do, I would just let you guys know that if you want to check out some pretty sweet Ohio State gear, you could head to roback.com, RHOBACK.com. We have a code for you. If you put in BAD20, that's BAD20, you'll get 20% off your first order. I've said this, like I know a lot of you guys have great Ohio State gear. You have T-shirts and hoodies and stuff. Sometimes it's cool with anything to have like the best thing. Like, oh, this is like my really good Ohio State quarter zip or my really good Ohio State hoodie. Roback is just a place where you can like go look around there on their game day collection and see if there's stuff you like, because it kind of has that kind of vibe to it. So again, it's Roback, RHOBACK.com. BAD20 for the code will save you 20%. Can I give you my favorite stat of the night?
Please do.
Drake Lindsay on the first drive, 7 of 9 for 64 yards. Drake Lindsay, the rest of the game, 8 of 17 for 30 yards.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that stark. You felt it watching it, but that's pretty ridiculous.
15 of 26 for 94 yards is where he finishes. And this is what I'm talking about from the perfection standpoint. And it's actually, I was like, this is what Ohio State does every week. But it's like, this was actually like the first time that they let somebody score on the first drive. You know, Texas moved the ball a little bit and they stopped them on downs. They forced Washington punt last week. But like, I thought it's like AI, like you can see it learning in real time, you know, of like, okay, well, we gave him this. And listen,
that's actually really well said. Yeah.
His throws, he hit his first 4 throws. He was started off 4-4. They were for 5, 5, 4, and 6 yards, which is simultaneously a credit to Drake Lindsay, a first-year starting quarterback, a second-year college football player who's taken what's there and moving the ball down the field. Great. Then he hits a 25-yarder to the tight end over the middle, and it looks just like a great big hole in the middle of that zone. Rush 3, drop 8, right? That happens sometimes. And then he has a 9-yard completion and a 10-yard completion, but the result is the field goal, and then that's it. And so again, in the chat, we all react in the moment. It's like, oh man, here we go again. Low possession game. They're just going to let them march right down the field. But it's just a test. It's a test for the Ohio State defense, almost like a double check. It's like an extra film study. We're going to do live film study. We've studied it all week. Now let's put ourselves in there. This 6'5" guy, they'll run some play action, but like what's really happening? And then it's a test of Drake Lindsay. Can you do this? And he could do it for 10 minutes. And then after that, he couldn't do it anymore. And it's just, again, the way this Ohio State defense operates, Bill, it's so like that. And that's a victory, I think. You let them march, like let them. They credit Minnesota march down the field. They only get 3. And then like, that's it. That was their peak. And it was over. I thought maybe they'd have another peak or two. I thought maybe Minnesota would move it a little bit. Maybe I'll stop thinking that. But even in that, I thought that was the Ohio State defense at work, even in giving up a 13-play, 66-yard drive, because I feel like it had a purpose.
Yeah, I think what you said there about it being like AI is well said, right? It's like it's this like living organism that just adapts over time to what it needs to. And if we talk about these opening scripts, right, and that was what that was for Minnesota, but there's also an element on the defensive side of Ohio State, I think, because it's so confident in its ability to stop teams in the red zone, that it is content is not the right word, but I think as a matter of strategy, it just like sits back a little bit and says like, okay, what do you think you know about us? And then that team puts that on display, and Ohio State takes that information in, and then you just can't do it again. And it's like, what do you got next? Right. And a lot of teams just don't have it next against this defense. It has been remarkable, I think, in every game that has sort of happened. It's not. I get that those drives can be a little frustrating. I would say that it's born out of an unrealistic expectation of perfection if they are truly frustrating outside of that particular moment, because 98% of what Ohio State's defense puts on the field is like darn near perfect, a lot of the time. So it just like, I don't know. It just felt like they smothered them after that. They couldn't run the ball. They even got their best running back in Darius Taylor and still couldn't run the ball. And we get another offensive line that like didn't seem to have much in the way of answers for what Ohio State's putting out there schematically with its fronts, and just a defense that looked pretty comfortable after that first drive, and that's looked pretty comfortable all year.
We're not listening to the post-game coaches news conference. Seek is in here saying that PJ Fleck said Ohio State ran base defense the whole first drive. The second series, it all changed.
Nice.
I don't know why Minnesota called a timeout before its first offensive play. I don't know if it was just so loud, but I thought maybe it's because they were afraid of Arvell Reese and they weren't sure he's allowed to line up the way he was lining up. Do you know why they called the timeout before their first offensive play?
I don't. No, I don't have, unless the only thing I could imagine is that it was loud and like they didn't feel like they got everything communicated the way they needed to otherwise. But Arvell Reese does have an impact on people, so I don't want to take it away from him. Maybe that's what it was.
and it's not like the first time he's done it, but they were playing when Minnesota like came out in the first play with 12 personnel, I think, maybe even 3 tight ends. And so Ohio State had Peyton Pierce on the field. They had 3 linebackers on the field, and they were like, okay, you're going to do this. We're going to have Peyton Pierce play middle linebacker, and Arvell Reese is going to stand over here like a rush end, like over one of your tight ends. And he's a linebacker. And then he would do that a lot the rest of the game whenever they had 12 personnel. If there was 2 tight ends in, they'd have Pierce playing middle linebacker. And then Reese would be up on the line, and then he'd drop a lot. But also from there, he very quickly can come and get after the quarterback. And it just is, I said, it's almost like a punishment for playing 12 personnel. It's like, this is what you get. You want to do this? You want to put 2 tight ends in the field? Arvell Reese is going to line up 3.5 steps from your quarterback's face. So would you like to put a third receiver on the field now? And maybe he'll go back to middle linebacker. You've done this to yourself. This is your choice, but it is quite a reaction that it's just like, okay, Peyton Pierce, here, you stand there and make sure the defense is set, and Arvell's going to go over here and scare people.
He's the boogeyman, right? He's picked up the mantle from Caleb Downs. It's incredible. It's not I hesitate to say singular impact because there's so many good defensive players on this team, but I don't know that I've seen a guy like cause as much confusion or like worry with opposing offenses. I guess Chase Young is probably the last one.
Yeah.
Just like that kind of dominant force who like you just like you say to yourself, like, well, we don't have anybody that can stop him one-on-one. So we're kind of terrified of what he could do at any and all times. That is the type of player that Arvell Reese has become. Ohio State fans have known that about him from the jump this season. The rest of the college football world, as we mentioned earlier in the week, is starting to figure that out. But this was another game where even on the plays where he's like quote unquote like not doing anything, he is having a tremendous impact because everyone they play is truly terrified of what that man is capable of and what he might be doing.
They really are. There was a play, I think it was like a 3rd down throw that Lorenzo Styles broke up because they lined up, and then they do this. So Curry, once Kenyatta Jackson got hurt, they were doing like usually Curry's inside on the pass rush downs, right? Curry's over, and then they have Jackson and Bo Atkinson. And they were doing a couple other things, but there was one where like they kept Will Smith on the field and they kept him in as a tackle. And so Curry was on the edge, but then they had Curry like as like the right defensive end, and then Reese lined up outside of him. So it was Curry and Reese next to each other over the left tackle on the left guard. And so Curry went and and then Reese like dipped inside of Curry, and the left guard was like, I guess I'm over here trying to help on Caden Curry. Here comes Arvell Reese. Oh my God. And he did not get to him. And Arvell Reese was like shot out of a cannon right at Drake Lindsay. And he was like, I got to get rid of the ball. And then Lorenzo Styles broke it up, or it wasn't. It's just, again, like some of the pairings and the options that they have. The equity that you gain, it's one of those things where they rush 3 a lot, but they are rushing 4 in the hearts and souls of the offense, because Arvell Reese, I think, doesn't actually have to rush for them to feel like he's rushing, because the fact that he might rush is like him rushing sometimes, because you prepare for it, and then you might wind up with like an offensive lineman or 2 blocking air. So it's like you have an extra player on the field, because you have the ghost of Arvell Reese rushing, and then you have the real Arvell Reese dropping in coverage. And as long as you bring him enough times a game to keep the ghost alive, you get to play with 12.
Well, that's why we've seen such a hard turn toward like simulated pressures kind of at all levels of football. But Ohio State has not always done that, because Ohio State for the longest time was like, we got 4 maniacs on our defensive line, we're just going to come after you. And as that has been like less and less of the case, I think Ohio State has been like slow to adapt and start doing the things that would help mask that is not the right word, but like complement sort of like a different look up front. And now you're right, like there's an equity piece to it, right? You have to do it enough that teams have to respect it all the time. And Ohio State has certainly done it enough that teams respect it all the time. And it's, I think, more valuable than it's like blitzing like crazy, because I think at a certain point, if you're blitzing like crazy, teams will eventually get a beat on you and understand like it's coming from here, you throw it there, right? It's coming from there, you get to like, but when
Mhm.
you do what Ohio State when you do what Ohio State does with putting 7 guys on the line of scrimmage, and you just like never know who's rushing and who's not. And by the way, if number 8 decides, or not decides, but is told that he's one of the guys who's rushing, you can't block him and you know it. Like there's just like layers to it too that I think make it even more difficult to handle. It is a tremendous weapon. I don't want to pretend like Ohio State's the only team in college football that has it, because you do see it a decent amount around college football, but you don't see it run as well, as efficiently, nor do you see it, I think, like respected as much as it is with Ohio State right now.
Do you know how many sacks Ohio State had tonight?
Actual sacks?
Actual sacks.
2?
1. They had the one where like Caden Curry kind of flushed him, and then Arvell Reese finished Lindsey off. But like it didn't feel like one. And that's like one of those where like last week they had 6, but I think last week and this week felt very similar. It's just that Damon Williams probably held the ball longer to allow, and he's trying to make a play. So he's holding the ball a little bit, and then he has a couple covered sacks. Also, Caden Curry lost his mind last week and went crazy. But like I think Lindsey's more like, okay, I'm going to get the ball out. I'm going to take this check down. But it's all the same effect, which is your pass rush, or the threat of your pass rush is not letting offenses do what they want to do. And so that has continued. And so, I'm not necessarily expecting, I don't think Ohio State's going to be like a 6-sack a game kind of defense, but I think they're going to be we're worried about your pass rush every snap that matters kind of defense. And then it's almost more frustrating for the offense of like, God, you freaked us out and we were ready for it. And then you brought 3. So then we max protected, and there were 2 guys in the route, and there were 8 guys covering those 2 guys, and Drake Lindsey had nowhere to go. And on 3rd and 9, he took a 2-yard check down. Like that may as well be a sack, right? Like what's the difference between that? I mean, it's the same effect. It stops you. It stops the offense. It gets you off the field. And I just think we're gonna see that, I think, with this Ohio State defense more than we'll see 6-sack games.
It is a constant state of discomfort for every quarterback who plays Ohio State. Whether they're actually being pressured or actually being hit, or just think they might be getting hit or pressured, like no one has consistently looked comfortable. Honestly, Damon Williams in brief moments, Drake Lindsey, I guess, like on this first drive, Arch Manning for like a drive and a half in the second half of that game. But like everyone they've played has dropped back looking concerned about what actually might be happening, to like unsure of what might actually be happening, with a level of concern that I just don't think lets them operate their offense the way they need to beat Ohio State or even make it close.
Whilst John's asking when Kenyatta Jackson got hurt, it was on that play where he sacked Lindsey from the blind side. That was not a sack because I actually called it an incompletion. He got the ball out just as Jackson got to him, but basically threw it in the ground. And that is when Jackson hurt himself. The broadcast thought it was a stinger. He didn't return after that. So it seems like he'll be okay, but hopefully that's the case with Kenyatta Jackson. Is there anything else on the defensive side of the ball that you really want to point out? Caleb Downs got a penalty for like kicking a guy off of him after that guy like tried to plant his face into the ground. So like that was kind of weird. But anything else?
I don't think CJ Hicks played, and Zion Grady played a lot.
Zion Grady did play a lot. Logan George got a tiny little bit of run, I think.
And I hesitate to even say this because I don't know that that's the case, and we're not there to ask Brian Day this question, but like someone asked me or asked us on Substack, like, do you think there's any chance CJ Hicks might redshirt the rest of this year just so he can like have a full season of being a larger member of a pass rush unit next year? And I said no. And then they got to the 5th game and he didn't play at all. So I don't know. He wasn't on the availability report, nor was he considered a game time decision. So I don't know what that was, but that's probably something to look into. But I thought Zion Grady played well for a true freshman getting an extended look.
I don't know. I'm not saying anything about anything, but are there a ton of guys who redshirt based on lack of playing time at their current school and then are back at the current school the next year? Is that a big thing?
No. No.
I mean, it seems like usually when that happens, it's like you want to save it because it's like, oh, my role here is not what I want it to be, so I'll redshirt and then I'll get ready to go somewhere else. So anyway, so we're certainly worth.
Well, I also
looking
don't
into.
know. He might have played. He actually might have played on special teams, and I wasn't paying attention to that, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah,
But
no,
I'm pretty sure he didn't play on defense. Yeah.
But like it was good to see. Yeah, Zion Grady had a little couple moments there. So that was good to see that.
Yeah.
All right.
I thought Will Smith played well too.
Do you want to do like a handful of like kind of random things here before we head out?
Yeah.
Okay. Was trying a 53-yard field goal on 4th and 6 like not a troll, but I want to see like a test. Did Ryan Day want to see if Jaden Fielding could make a 53-yarder at home so that if he gets to the same decision later in the year in a big game, he has a data point?
Maybe. I guess that would probably be like the only justifiable answer as to why they did that, because as I told people on Substack, that was the 6th time in Ryan Day's 6 years as a head coach, or 7 years, 6+ years as a head coach, that he's tried a 50-yard field goal, and almost all of them have failed, and Jaden Fielding has failed twice prior to today. So maybe. I was pretty surprised they didn't go for it there. Like, I understand 4th and 6 is not automatic, but this is not a team that is built to kick 50-yard field goals, and it really hasn't ever been built to kick 50-yard field goals. So that was a bit out of character, but if it was done with a purpose of, let me see what this guy can do, I guess I would understand it from that perspective.
Did you think attempting that 53-yard field goal was the best way for Ohio State to try to beat Minnesota on Saturday night?
No.
Do you think Ryan Day thought it was the best way for Ohio State to try to beat Minnesota on Saturday night?
No.
No. That's that's all I think. Ryan.
Yeah.
Why did you think that was the best decision to try to win the game? I didn't. Oh. Then we're doing something different here, which I don't.
Yeah.
It's like, but Ryan, what if you try that and it comes back, it's 42-3. It wasn't going to come back to haunt you, right? I mean, it's like he can't, they're losing when he tries it. They're losing. So what if Ohio State gets shut out the rest of the night and loses 3-0? I think he wanted to try it, and I happened to, like, they gave us Jaden Fielding to talk to this week, and so on Substack I did write a little bit about this before the game. He talked a lot about like the wind in Ohio Stadium, that it swirls, there's dead spots. Jaden Fielding in his career is 17 of 19 on the road, and he was 16 of 22 at home coming in. 90% on the road, 73% coming in, and he's never made a 50-yarder. They haven't made a 50-yard field goal since 2019. So, and Jaden Fielding in the spring said he was hurt last year with a hip muscle injury, but he missed two field goals in the 30s against Michigan in a game that Ohio State lost by 3 at home. So,
yes.
Kicking it home where he's not quite as good, maybe because it's a hard place to kick. Kicking long, which he's never done. He's never made a 50-yarder. I think it is not there. Not a lot of data points to gather. I think you've got to gather them. And I think this might be enough of a data point that Ryan Day is like out of the 50-yard field goal business officially until further notice. And that this was the last chance to even think about being in the 50-yard field goal business. And if they get into a game where it's at the end of the game and they're down by 1 and they either need to kick a 53-yarder or go for it on 4th and 6, I think they're going to go for it on 4th and 6. And I think he tested that out tonight.
Yeah, I probably agree with you. The only thing that's interesting there is that they did bring in a transfer kicker this offseason, Jackson Kerrville from Ball State, who made 84% of his field goals last year and was 2 of 2 from 50+ with a long of 52. So, and it was the deal when they had like the whatever Parker Lewis dude from UNC. Is like, this guy's got kind of a strong leg, and it's like they bring in guys who have strong legs, and then don't use them when it's time to use a guy who has a strong leg. So I think you're right. Unless it's like there's 1 second on the clock when you have to pick a 50-yard field goal situation, like the end of the Georgia game.
Mhm.
I don't think they'll try it again. And also the one that they have made, by the way, was a 55-yarder from Blake Hallbill, like at the half against Northwestern. And I think Ohio State might have been up like 24-0 at the time, or 24-7. So like it
Yeah.
wasn't exactly a high leverage 50-yarder. And I guess this one wasn't either, but it was still kind of a weird decision. But you're making it make sense, so I appreciate that.
So I actually don't want you to give away the stat. We're going to do a 50-yard field goal investigation here, I think, in the next week or two. I think it's time. Because Ohio State arguably lost a national championship by not making one. And I think like just the fact that they haven't made one and other people have, I think we don't need to have the conversation now. It's something that we will investigate on Substack in the coming weeks. You already partially investigated it with our chat on Saturday night, but let's leave that conversation there, because it's one of those things that doesn't matter until your whole season depends on it. And so you've got to take the opportunities, I think, to find out information about that when you can. Josh Padilla played a little bit of right guard instead of Tegra, like filling in for Tegra Shabola on a drive, and it wasn't Ethan Onyanwa. What did you make of that?
We had a conversation, did we not, about maybe when we were doing our top 22 Buckeyes or some other time, about is there an opportunity for an offensive lineman to have a 2024 Luke Montgomery like arc where he just kind of does his work in the background, and then at the end of the season you can tell the coaching staff's feeling really good about him, and like maybe it's time to put him in. And I think I offered like Gabe Van Sickle as the guy who might be in the best position to do that. Maybe it's Josh Padilla. Padilla's not like young. I guess he's in his third year, but he's not really played all that much. So I think it was that. I think it was like Josh Padilla is probably doing really well in practice, and they wanted to reward him for doing that. They like him a ton. He's just not going to overtake Carson Hinsman at center. So why not try him a guard? I'm obviously going to go back and watch all the snaps. I think it was just one drive, and then he came in with the backups and played center in the fourth quarter. But yeah, interesting that it wasn't Onyanwa. And then also too, when they had an emergency right tackle snap because Philip Daniels' helmet got popped off, it was Ian Moore who came into the game. That also would have been a spot potentially for Ethan Onyanwa to come in, and he didn't. He did play at right guard with the backups, so he was available. But yeah, I don't know if that means like definitively the depth chart has been shaken up already, but it might mean that. It's probably something to ask Ryan Day during the week, maybe about what Josh Padilla has been doing to get that chance to play. But it's clear from the way they've always kind of talked about him that they really, really do think he's got a bright future at Ohio State. He just needs an opening to play.
And you got to know, if one of your interior starting offensive linemen gets abducted by aliens, who's up? And if the answer is not slam dunk Ethan Onyanwa, then you got to try this, and you got to see.
Yep.
Because you can't find out when it's go time. You need to know before it's go time. So I thought that, again, it's one of the things. It's a Big Ten opponent. I think Minnesota is a quality football team. It is the kind of game where if you're going to try some of this stuff out, you're kind of running out of room to do it, because you're going to have these tests, and then you're going to have, Purdue and Rutgers at the end of the year. And by the way, we were just talking the other day, it's like, between Penn State and Michigan, it's like UCLA, Purdue, and Rutgers. Oh, Nico. I think we have to reevaluate Ohio State's November.
Yeah, I won't pretend like I got a lot of eyeballs on that game. I was at a wedding while it was happening, but I just kept looking at the score going like, are they going to lose? Are they actually going to lose? I was like, oh, I guess they are. So, yeah, maybe the back end of Ohio State's schedule is more interesting than we realized.
Or maybe that was the beginning of the end.
Or
of
maybe
Penn
it's
State.
not. Or maybe it's not.
I don't really want to do that here 58 minutes into this. I actually think we're going to do a Monday sound off this week for our Substack subscribers instead of a Sunday sound off. We're going to have them send in questions and comments. Again, if you want to sign up at Substack to be part of that, you can go find us on Substack, Bill and Doug, Ohio State. I don't think I want to do that right now, but it's the I do think this is the Penn State shift, right? And it was like, well, something is like, oh, Penn State's the same team every year, and it's like, well, now they're not, and it's not because they beat somebody, it's because they lost the game they can't lose, and all of a sudden, like all bets are off there. And I don't even know if there's lessons to be learned other than it's like lines to be drawn, because the thing that I think is different, not that Ohio State hasn't lost games like that, but they like it's funny, like the closest that it would be for Ohio State would be 2017 after they came back and beat Penn State at home, and then they lost at Iowa the next week and like got their doors blown off. And I think they were like maybe exhausted by that win. They were maybe riding high a little bit off that win, but they didn't lose and then lose. And like that's the thing. Like if you have a miraculous, like everybody gets a little wiggle room, but like the Oregon loss is already the wiggle room. And now this, like a loss on top of it, that's next level. Like you can't do that. So we'll talk about that, I think, on our Monday show with our Substack subscribers. This is the last thing I want to talk about. So they brought in Lincoln Kienholz. They snuck Julian Sayin and got it, but they had called timeout right before it. So then after the timeout, they brought in Lincoln Kienholz. They snuck Sayin on 3rd and 1 from under center. They brought in Kienholz and lined him up in the shotgun and then had him run. And this is another thing. You and I talked about this after the Oregon-Penn State game last week, because both Oregon and Penn State converted some things out of the shotgun by letting Drew Aller and Dante Moore sort of read the hole. And we were like, I'm not so sure they shouldn't do that with Lincoln Kienholz. And it was like Ryan Day thought the same thing. Let's let our physical quarterback read the hole. And then Lincoln Kienholz had 2 holes available to him and it was like, nope, I'm bouncing it. And then Ryan Day threw him into the upper deck.
Yeah. I think they caught Ryan Day saying like something to the effect of why did you not run that inside? Perhaps with an expletive mixed in there. It was just a bad read. I don't even like it. It was clunky because like I actually had converted the sneak, but if you can like just analyze the idea of shotgun Lincoln Kienholz run and short yardage in a vacuum, I of course don't mind it, but he didn't read it well. He did get redemption later in the game though. They put him like in a similar spot and he did take it inside and he got it down to the 1 and then he snuck it in to score a touchdown. So I guess it's good that he kind of messed up the first one and got it right the second time.
And because I thought there was 2 holes there. And either I think would have been enough for the first down. He wasn't going to break into the open field, but it was enough to put your shoulder down and get the first down. And so I still think that remains like in the possible list of possible things they can do on 3rd or 4th and 1. I still think that's pretty good. I mean, it's basically Wildcat. You're running Wildcat, but it's with your backup quarterback who's bigger than Julian Sayin. And I don't want to get bogged down in this, but Sayin under center like has shown that he could sneak it, because then he did sneak it later in the game, right? And it actually counted.
He snuck it later, yeah.
Is there any part of that you don't love, just from like the health and longevity standpoint of Julian Sayin, or is that just something that a starting quarterback needs to be able to do? You have to be able to get a yard under center if that's what they're asking of you. It's part of the job.
I think it's part of the job.
Okay.
I guess I don't. And Ohio State doesn't do it every time they're in short yardage.
Right.
I wouldn't love that, I guess, or at least not love it. I'd probably be okay with it with like a bigger quarterback, but not with the way that Julian Sayin's built. But I think it's good to see him be willing and able to do it. He got a little push from Nate Roberts, I think, on the one that they converted that actually counted. But I also liked it. I don't know. Did you notice? I picked it up on TV, and I think TV mentioned it. Like the first one they called that didn't count, they showed Julian Sayin like giving the play call in the huddle, and he was like smiling as he gave it. Like he seemed kind of excited to run the quarterback. He seemed kind of excited to run the quarterback sneak. So I think they gotta show a willingness to call it, because it helps keep teams honest. But I don't think it should be a crutch for them because he's whatever 200 pounds and 6 feet tall.
There was definitely a negative reaction in our chat to the Kienholz. People were like, "That's it, I'm out." And like, I like the idea. It was terrible execution by him, but it's not like they've done it. It's not like he can't do that. We don't know if he can do it. Like they really haven't tried that with him. Have they tried a shotgun short yardage Lincoln Kienholz run before? So like I think he learned.
It was the second time.
It was the second time.
They did it against Ohio. Yeah.
That was shotgun
too.
Against Ohio. That was shotgun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because then the second one by the goal line, he was taking that one inside, whether there was a brick wall there. Like he was not like, so like he just,
Right. Yeah.
like the only way you can bounce that is if there's nobody there or if you're Braxton Miller. Right. So like, that's like, it is
Yes.
not,
Yes.
there's otherwise it is not an option. And if the hole's not there, make your own hole. So like,
Yeah.
that's why you're in there, because you're bigger than the other guy. Right. So like, I think he learned that lesson. And if this is, I don't think they have to conclude like, this is what we do. But I thought the variety of this, right? Like the CJ Donaldson fullback handoff, the Julian Sayin under center sneak, the Keenholt shotgun play, like these are adding to the short yardage package where 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 is still like not a guarantee for Ohio State. And I like that they're still trying things. And I think there are multiple things in there that can work. And I think the bigger the package here, the better off they'll be.
Yeah, I think so too. The more, because they don't have the automatic. So like the whatever, like the brotherly shove. So they have to attack it, I think, from a variety of ways. And in doing so and finding success with a couple of different things, like you just make defenses kind of try to figure out what that is and have to prepare for a bunch of things. And I think that ups your chances of success. I would just like generally, if CJ Donaldson's going to be the guy, I'd like to see him again run with better pad level. But I don't know. Same conversation with the red zone. Like I don't know that I've hated a lot of the ideas. They just got to execute them better, which I know is boring, but I do think it's the truth.
Yeah. So okay, we'll certainly get into like the crazy day of college football. You know, between now and when we speak with Ryan Day again on Tuesday. It's just a reminder. It's good for all of us to get reminders. You know, sometimes it like the main thing is what are the things that are going on that could cause you trouble down the road. But I just,
yeah.
I guess the other thing we didn't talk about, we may as well talk about for 3 minutes is like, again, that special teams play with the throwback across the field to Lorenzo Styles. Like, does that actually like back coverage off a little bit? Does that give Brandon Inniss a boost that he made a nice throw? Does it plant a seed in the minds of Brett Bielema and Luke Fickell and Sharon Moore and James Franklin and Mario Cristobal? They'll have to study it on film when it's playoff time. Does it just prove to everybody who's been asking about special teams that they actually work on stuff? Why'd they do that?
I think the last thing he just said,
Yeah,
like,
okay.
I don't know. All of a sudden, every team they play moving forward is going to spend increased amount of time on Ohio State doing something for the first time in 15 years. Like I just don't think that's the way that this works. I don't think Ohio State's going to get in the habit of having Brandon Inniss throw the ball. I guess like it plants the morsel of like, do these guys have something for us? But like we've seen Ohio State bring an occasional special teams wrinkle to the table in the one-off week throughout the season, whether it's a fake punt or a specific type of block or something like this. But it's never a consistent mindset for them. So it was cool. But I don't know that it is like a sign of things to come, nor is it something that I think teams will spend all that much time on as they prepare for Ohio State.
Like all I ever say is that Ohio State just wants to catch the punt and get the offense on the field. And so then like Brandon Inniss gave up a punt return and fumbled it the other week. And it's like, they just want to nope. Brandon Inniss is throwing it. Brandon Inniss is throwing it. Like the risk reward of that. Cause it's like, well, they got an extra 30 yards out of the return. It's like, well, they can get 30 yards on the first play offensively just by like throwing it out to Jeremiah Smith. So like do that.
Yeah.
But also what if Brandon Inniss bounced the throw and now a Minnesota guy is picking it up and running it the other way? I do not know about that. So it's like everybody's fired up. I think I would put that one in the way back machine. Like I that goes in the vault. That's like Rob Keys, because we went through the list. Who's in charge of everything? Rob Keys, the special teams coordinator, is in charge of punt return. So he can get a bonus check for that one. And then Ryan Day can tell him they're running it again in 2029.
Yeah. Here's your $72,000 play. Yeah. I don't, whatever. It worked. It worked, I guess. But I don't think we'll see it again. Yeah.
Although I do like
Ryan,
our
I got to run
conclusion
this
that
play. These guys are saying it'll make enough money. We got to run the throwback return.
take
They
that,
found the
Landis,
records.
and
Says how much money it
your
makes.
your $1 million coordinator hire. How about that? The $1 million play. Although I like that our conclusion is, hey, remember how Ohio State wasn't doing great on special teams? They had a great special teams play, and we're like, yeah, we liked it better when they were bad at it because this is not worth it. Just be average.
Just be average is fine. Yeah, just be average. Yeah.
All right. So you were at a wedding today?
I was at a wedding today. Yeah, my cousin got married. Yeah, it was a nice time. It was hot. These fall weddings are hot, man. I don't know what the deal is, but I've had
do a
two
little
of them now. I've
dancing?
been sweating like crazy.
Little dancing or no?
No, I kind of had to leave before the dancing started, so I got to go to the ceremony and the cocktail hour, and I had some dinner, and I left. I was kind of bummed because I'm here with my wife and my son was apparently cutting up a rug, but I wasn't there to see it happen. So,
oh, nice. Okay,
it's all right. Had to watch the Minnesota game and do a podcast for the people.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah, for the people. I am in. I was at another William and Mary football game today. William and Mary won today, defeated North Carolina A&T, and I got another round of sunburn because it is October and the sun is like we are. It's like the middle of July. I didn't bring sunscreen in October to a football game, and so the game ended, and my daughter was like, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" And I was like, "I just stared at the sun for 90 minutes. I don't know what to tell you." It's like, so who knew? All right. We'll have some stuff up written on Substack at some point. We put up some quick thoughts after the game. We'll have the Sunday sound off on Monday this week on Substack. Monday sound off. We have a lot of stuff. You have a film breakdown early in the week for the YouTube and podcast folks, Bill. We have our playoff discussion, our playoff brackets on Tuesday night. I'll have some rants for you. Of course, Bill Belichick got his doors blown off by Dabo Sweeney on Saturday, to no surprise. And then we'll have a bunch of coverage both here on YouTube and on our podcast feeds, and also at Substack, Bill and Doug, osu.substack.com. Thanks to you crazy people who watched a whole football game and then said, let's go watch two guys talk about that football game. We're so excited to do it with you. This continues to be a fascinating team to observe, to watch the continued progress of this team. And Bill, I think the thing that this fan base feels is two things. It is the opportunity that is present for Ohio State right now to do something that's never been done in program history, which is to repeat at national champions. And it is the opportunity to do that with new guys. And that's it's a rare combo to some degree. And it's like, man, and again, I always tell the stories, like the first thing I learned on the Ohio State beat, it's like, AJ Hawk is graduating. Oh my God, what are they going to do? And it's like, who's this James Laurinaitis guy? And that's just how Ohio State works. And it's like, oh my God, Jack Sawyer just made the greatest play in Ohio State defensive history. How could you possibly get a homegrown Ohio guy who's that kind of defensive guy? Oh, it's Arvell Reese. He's fine. They're here. Like, it's just, there's always another guy. And that's what makes it fun. So like, we're not like, it is appreciating the chance to do something over again, while there is not a single part of this that is like been there, done that, or blasé or boring, or we've already seen this, because it's so many different people involved, Bill. And like, even like Jeremiah Smith, we know how good he is, but like, watch Carnell Tate do this on a night like this. It makes it fun, man.
It does make it fun. It's quite a different energy with this team at the moment, because even last year's team, like prior to the championship run, which was awesome, like there was a lot of like tension during the season, and it wasn't just like the natty or bust stuff. It was like, you've been watching these guys play football for a very long time, and I think like patience waiting for guys to like break through does tend to wear thin. And the combination of like the high level of play with this team, combined with you getting to experience a lot of this stuff for the first time watching this particular set of players, has made this season pretty fun thus far.
It has. So we're very grateful that you guys are letting us ride along with you on this Ohio State adventure. Again, we'll see you on YouTube. We'll see you on the podcast feed. We'll see you on Substack. For now, Ohio State winners over Minnesota 42-3 He's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesemrises, and that was the Bill and Doug Show.